In the meantime, I'll introduce myself. My name is Caitlin. I am a certified business coach with ActionCOACH. So I work with business owners every day to help them build a better business. So we do that in a couple of key ways. For a lot of people, this is, as they're starting to think about exiting the business, the first thing they think is, how can I reclaim some of my time? I'm burning out, I'm working too many hours. And so I coach clients on how to find ways to begin to step back from the business in kind of a gradual, sustainable way. Another thing is team. I do coach people as they are kind of building their team or kind of filling key positions in the business that will help the business become less dependent on the owner. And finally, money. I help coach businesses who are on a growth trajectory or who are trying to change their trajectory a little bit to figure out how they could be making more money and increasing their profits. So all of these things build value within the business. And so a real natural fit for a business coach is somebody who is thinking of selling their business in the future. So that's what brought me here today. I'd be really curious to hear from anybody who's willing to speak up a little bit more about what brought you here today. Colin, I think I see you down at the bottom. Are you able to give a little bit of an introduction?
Hello, am I activated?
Hi there.
Is my voice working?
It sure is. I can see you, I can hear you.
My reason for joining today, learning curve. I'm not interested in an immediate sale of my business. I do have a strategy in place that involves an employee acquisition program. And I am more interested in maintaining and continuing the well-being of my business before I basically, bring the transition tools into place.
Perfect. And what is your business?
We design and integrate audiovisual tools into collaboration environments, boardrooms, meeting facilities, primarily video conferencing, as we are doing here today.
I imagine this has been a busy time for you.
It's been extremely busy. We haven't missed a day. We do fall under essential services, under telecommunications as such, a key communications tool. But our problems or our circumstances that we have to deal with is the regulatory process that determines our accessibility to our workplace out there. And various workplaces are accessible to us one day and not accessible to us the next. So we are constantly juggling where our teams of technicians are moving to. It's a moving target as to what client point of installation they are moving to on a day-to-day basis. But there's always a location for them to go to at the end of the day.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Colin. And I think there's a few more people joining in. Guys, this is a roundtable conversation, so I have a little bit of a presentation to give. But for anybody who is feeling willing to turn on their video and turn on their mic, it's much more fun for me if we can have a bit of a conversation. I'm scaring them off, Colin. You're the only brave one here. All right, I'm going to get started, and I just have like a couple of minutes of presentation, and then, as I said, we can have a bit of a chat, and I can tell you a little bit more about what I do, and learn a little bit more about what you do. So, as I mentioned, I'm a business coach, and I do work with owners who are trying to build the value of their business. So one of the approaches that I wanted to bring forward today is what I like to call the Switzerland strategy. The Switzerland strategy is about kind of maintaining neutrality within the business. So Switzerland is famous for being kind of a neutral global presence. And there's benefits to thinking of how to use that model within your business as well. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Caitlin.
Thank you, Colin. Yeah,
You
my
froze.
connection completely cut out for a moment there. It stays. I don't remember how I worked to share my screen before. Alex, if you're on the line, would you mind giving me a little tech support here?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just tried to call you, but I couldn't get through.
Sorry, my connection just froze and now I'm back, but how do I share my screen now?
Yeah, no worries. So do you see at the bottom of the screen, there's like 3 or 4 little icons there? There's one that looks like a TV with a red line through it.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and then there should be a
Thank you.
screen share option.
All right.
Perfect.
Great. Okay.
Yes, your slides are back up there now. Not full screen.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm working on it.
Oh, I know. Just letting you know what's at the other end.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's I really love technology. I really do. But when it stops working, it's not my friend. Okay, so I think we were around here. So the question was, how easy is it to replace your most important employee? So the thinking here is that often this is the owner, but not always. Sometimes there is another critical employee in the business, maybe somebody who has some kind of technical knowledge or of key information that keeps the business running day to day. The issue is that if you are reliant on one employee, obviously there's always a risk of them leaving, of them walking away and finding a different job. So again, this increases the risk to the buyer that things might not go smoothly in the years ahead. There's also a bit of a risk because if they were to enter a sort of a salary negotiation with the new owner, they could demand a premium. So that's not something that anybody wants to pay. So replace your most important employee and how can you reduce your dependency on them? And then finally, what percentage of your overall revenue did your largest customer represent in the last year? When you have a structure where you have one kind of whale of a customer who brings you most of your business, then if they were to leave, it could become unstable or jeopardize the health of the business. So typically the rule of thumb here is that we're looking for the largest customer to not represent more than 15% of the revenue of the business. So if you were in a situation where your largest customer was bringing in more than 15% of your revenue, then that might be an area where you would look to address and make some adjustments before you go to sell. So those are my 3 key questions when it comes to this kind of Switzerland strategy of neutrality. So what comes next? First thing you could do is you could take your list of employees and rank them from the easiest to the most difficult to replace. Try to figure out how can you reduce your dependency either on the owner, if this is yourself, or other key employees. The next one would be to rank your customers by the percentage of your revenue that each represents. So if you're finding that that largest, biggest customer is responsible for a large proportion of your revenue, one strategy would be to think about how you could increase your sales to these smaller customers. That would be my first kind of go-to strategy. Of course, we could always look for new customers to kind of reduce your dependency on the one. But since you already have smaller customers, much easier to try and increase your sales to them than go out to the market and find a ton of new leads. Although that's something that we can do too. And finally, identify the important raw materials that go into your business and think about what other companies could supply them. One reason companies tend to get dependent on a key supplier is maybe because they're offering a really great discount. So maybe it's possible to kind of shop around and get a similar discount from other suppliers. But at the end of the day, if you are kind of gearing up to sell your business, reducing the dependency and going for that neutrality would be more important than having that great discount. So that's my kind of the strategy I wanted to bring today was the Switzerland piece. There are other factors that you can consider as well. So when I'm coaching a business, we look at these other dimensions as well. Obviously, the financial performance of the business is critically important. That's not a surprise to anybody. So the history of revenue and profit, as well as the kind of how professional the record keeping has been. If you have a shoebox of old receipts, it's probably a little less appealing to a buyer than if you have a couple of years history of really solid books, well professionally done. The growth potential of the business. So this is the indication whether or not the business is growing, whether we can it continuing to grow in the next few years, and the rate as well that it's growing at. Another consideration would be the valuation teeter-totter. So this is what I like to call, sometimes we have businesses that are on a kind of teeter-totter between earning a lot of cash and then eating up a lot of cash, earning cash, burning cash, up and down, as there's kind of a cash gap between goods in and goods out. So we look at kind of evening out the flow and making sure that the cash flow is predictable and consistent. Most buyers look for some sort of recurring revenue. So what proportion of the revenue of the business is from returning customers, and how do we kind of increase that either with contracts or subscriptions or other mechanisms to kind of show that the revenue will recur. How differentiated is your business from your competitors? Does it have kind of a clear niche in the marketplace? The customer satisfaction, the likelihood that your customers will refer you to their friends and family. And one last one, the hub and spoke model. So this is how dependent the business is on the owner. So if the owner were to take a vacation for a month or for 3 months, what would happen to the business? So what we're really looking to build is a situation where the owner could step away for a significant amount of time and come back to a business that is still alive and thriving. So those are some other factors to consider. And I'm really happy to talk about any of these in more detail. Today, I decided to bring to the table, first and foremost, this Switzerland strategy. But I'd like to turn it over there and maybe we can get some conversation going. There's a few people in the room. Feel free to turn on your audio and video. And I'd be really curious to hear whether you see opportunities in your own business along any of these lines. All right, I think maybe people don't really want to turn on their audio and their video, so that's fine. Colin, do you have any questions or thoughts about this material?
There. I was actually trying to activate my microphone, but there was a number of icons on screen. Here I am in the technology business, and I'm whatever. I'm not going to say it. Looking at the questions, the middle one, how easy would it be to replace your most important employee? I'd like to just share, perhaps, as I identified earlier, that part of my transitory process will involve current employees. So as an example, I have my two most senior employees, the highest income earners within the company, greatest responsibility for bringing in new revenue, recurring revenue, etc. Both have been identified and are aware that they will be a part of my transitory process. They don't know the transitory process. I've yet to 100% nail it all down. That is another step I need to cross in the next few years. But we have a commitment in place, and I have a personal reason for saying that that commitment will stay in place, because I look upon the company as my long-term financial funnel as well. So although it would become eventually their financial funnel, it will also become my ongoing financial funnel until someday down the road where it becomes 100% their financial funnel. Now, by putting this type of a discussion in place, I have ensured that those two individuals will not be leaving the firm, because the firm, will be theirs as the future develops. So I just wanted to share that conceptual idea as to how I overcame that second question you have there.
So in your kind of future planning, are you handing over the reins, handing over the ownership to the senior employees?
Well, eventually, yes. Eventually, they will become the future owners. At this moment in time, my activity in the company is at the highest level of, management work. In other words, I do nothing from a day-to-day business working within the business concept. I'm constantly working on the business, the future position of the business 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, those type of scenarios. So does the business need me day to day to keep functioning at what it is doing? Absolutely not. It's already doing what it needs to be doing. I'm just providing a very high level of management oversight.
Perfect. It sounds like you're in a really strong place. One thing that I do is I work with business owners to come up with a kind of score. So on each of these kind of metrics that I went over, the Switzerland strategy, as well as the other 7 on the last page, we kind of assess the business on each score, on each metric, to come up with an overall score that shows kind of any areas for improvement. Colin, if that's something that you would be interested in having for your business, maybe we could have a conversation afterwards and see what that would look like.
As I said, when I first came on screen, my purpose for being here today is all about learning. I don't let a day go by in life without capturing the opportunity to learn something, regardless of what it is. Always learning something, always changing something. Those are 2 of my 3 daily mantras. So I'm going to answer yes to that, even though I feel I have pretty well the entire list already in process at a level of undertaking. But yeah, definitely, let's go to the parking lot with a future discussion. I'm always open to the learning process.
Fantastic. I love that, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm the person who always has my nose in a book. I figure if you're not learning, you're not earning, right? I'd love to hear from anybody else as well. I know there's a few people who have been hovering on the list of participants. If it doesn't work for you to turn on your audio and your video, please do feel free to pop any questions in the chat as well. I can keep an eye there, and I think Alex is keeping an eye there as well. Oh, it's very quiet over there. Colin, I guess we might as well keep chatting, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm here to learn from others and to learn from you, of course, being a speaker. But I'm free to an open discussion. It'd be nice if input from others. As I said, input from everybody is always most welcome. But yes, fire away.
Tell me a little bit more about your business. I know you said you've been really busy over the past year. Do you have kind of key goals for the next 1 year, kind of as stepping stones to get you to your exit transition strategy?
Definitely. There's a number of minor objectives that are in place. A couple of major objectives as well. And each one is, in its incremental day-to-day growth, towards that implementation.
Yeah, sustainable change over time. That's what we like to see. Can you tell me a little bit about what your goals are? Like, are they tied to revenue, for example, or time away from the business? And I'd be happy to kind of provide any resources that I have in my back pocket.
It's not as revenue based of a requirement as much of let me just call it structural. Of a key consideration for me going forward is our existing space, as an example. The amount of time on the existing lease, the space requirement that we can function most advantageously in. Over the past year, we've done a mix-up of space utilization and moved a number of items out of the business and into another location to facilitate a space need. So it was more physical than anything, logistical. But going forward, I need to look at my space issue, and that is one of the major going forward plans that I have been working on over the last half year. One would think that there might be a lot of real estate available, but considering the unfortunate ills of what the pandemic has delivered here to business. But I'm looking at a very specific business neighborhood in terms of the long-term logistical aspect of that, i.e. Proximity and accessibility to your clients. Highways are very important to me. The flow of traffic on those highways is a very important factor to me. It's not all about the lowest rent in whatever neighborhood or the best looking building on the block. It's all about what it takes to provide service to the customer. Everything comes down to the service to the customer in our thinking. So therein lies my logistical problem of finding the right piece of real estate. I have people working on it now. And that is far from being a revenue concern in terms of my transition, but I do want the company on a very good physical foundation, no pun intended, as I work forward in the transition process.
Working on that already. Yeah, we would think that commercial space would be, that would be opening up a little bit in some areas. I hope
the right space, the right space, being absolutely the pickiest of the pickiest in terms of the space that we are looking for.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, how long have you been in business?
We are celebrating 25 years, coming up December 1st. And the company, as an audiovisual company, I renamed it to my name, Century. It operated by another individual who had 4 locations for 10 years prior. And, I had actually managed his location for 5 years. And I only took the job if I would be considered as an individual for acquisition when his time came to retire. So I started working on business acquisition 30 years ago, with the previous owner. So he owned it for 10 years. He purchased it from another individual that operated it for approximately 10 years. So our phone number, as per se, has been, you know, a response line in the audiovisual trade to our clients for basically over 40 years.
Wow. So do you find your clients kind of continue to grow with you?
Yes and no. That's the ironic circumstance, because it's clients and their changes that have affected us more than our availability to them or their desire to, you know, do work with us and be loyal with us. It's their transitions. They were amalgamated, or, you know, bought out or closed or out of business, or whatever the various circumstances of life might be. Or the Canadian office was closed down and moved back to Denver, or whatever it was. But we do have a handful of clients that we've done business with for over 35 years, myself personally, that basically have not looked elsewhere than doing business with us. So we're very fortunate from a loyalty standpoint that, you know, as they've acquired other entities out there, they've moved us into those entities, and basically starting with one small meeting room 35 years ago is probably today 5 or 6 different physical locations, and probably a total of 45 or so different meeting rooms, boardrooms, collaboration environments. And a goodly number of them we have rebuilt every 4 to 5 years because of technology changes.
I guess that it does give an opportunity for you. And what
Well,
about new clients? Do you find that people
Sure.
are finding you?
Pardon?
Are new clients, new customers finding you as well?
Oh yeah, that happens on a daily basis.
Great. Well, it sounds like you've built an empire.
Well, it's not really an empire as much as a comfortable place. But there's other
Congratulations
people in the business too.
on. I'm sorry?
There's other people in the business as well, and our clients choose to do business with us, and many times they tell us exactly why. And we are most fortunate and most respectful, you know, of that loyalty. But as I said earlier, it all comes down to a customer concentric mentality. Everything, 40 hours a week. Well, more than that. If a client has a problem and they report it at nighttime and the meeting's at 8 in the morning, the room is up and running for 8 in the morning. So they can't sort of call 20 people in their meeting. Well, back in the days when people had meetings, of course, and basically say, we can't have that meeting tomorrow morning. It's our launch meeting. It's our new product launch. And, you know, we're bringing in this person, that person, et cetera, and a couple of key clients and whatever, but we're going to cancel it because we can't do the presentation because something doesn't work in our presentation environment.
No,
The show must go
that
on.
doesn't work.
The show must go on. I mean, you have to identify that your client is you are the bloodline to your client as much as they are the bloodline, you know, to your success. So that is a huge part of what we're all about. And that's why we have the level of loyalty that we have with our clients, the comfort we have. And they don't pay through the nose. I mean, we're right there at market rates.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I think it sounds like such an interesting business. I love talking to entrepreneurs who have done so much and learned so much. It's really a pleasure. I think we are over. So I'd love to follow up with you and offer you that report. Is there an email address that I can reach you at?
Please do. I think I registered one on screen here. C.Tyler, Tyler, at centuryav.com.
Perfect. Great.
And
Okay,
You
well,
know,
I will
it's learning
certainly
and
follow
listening
up
to
on
you,
this.
Caitlin, and others. That's what it's all about.
That's right. Now I'm trying to see. It looks like there are a few other people in the chat. No, they're drifting in and out. Okay. Well, listen, Colin, it's a
Done for
pleasure
the
meeting
day.
you, and best of luck with your future plans. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation with you, and it's unfortunate we didn't have more participation, in your valued comments. And I look forward to a discussion with you down the road. Coffee, looking at each other's screens.
That sounds perfect. Coffee in
Have a
person
good
would be
day.
better, but
Thank
I'll
you.
settle for
I'll
that.
sign off.
All right. Take care.